Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into a pretty deep and complex theological topic, demonic attack. Now, the source material we're pulling from gives us a really fascinating way to understand all this, and we're going to break it down piece by piece. So let's get right into it.
So let's start with the big question. What exactly is a demonic attack, at least from this theological perspective? Well, the first thing to know is that it's not just one single thing. The source material actually breaks it down into a few really distinct categories, and that's where it starts to get interesting. Okay, so right off the bat, the whole concept gets split into two big buckets. On one side, you've got what's called an ordinary attack, which is described as, common temptation, something everyone faces. But on the other side, you have the extraordinary attacks, and these are way more direct. They are the entire focus of our explainer today: infestation, obsession, and oppression. So here's the game plan. We're going to look at infestation, which is all about places. Then we'll move on to obsession, which targets the mind. After that, we'll cover oppression, an attack on someone's whole life. And finally, we'll bring it all together so we can really see how they're different. All right, first up, infestation. The thing that really sets this one apart is that it's not aimed at a person directly. Nope, the focus here is on a place or an object. Think of it as an external thing. So here's the key thing to remember. An infestation is when a demonic presence is believed to be latched onto a specific location or an item. The focus isn't on the who, but on the where or the what. You can kind of think of it as a localized spiritual problem. And the source material gives this really vivid image to help you picture it. It describes, quote, demons occupying springs or rivers or trees or stone. That really paints a picture of what this could look like, a presence that's literally tied to the physical world around us. Okay, so we've talked about the external world of places and things. Now let's switch gears and go internal. We're moving into the next category, which is obsession. And this is described as a direct assault on a person's own thoughts and imagination. So what does this mean exactly? Well, demonic obsession is defined as an attack that involves compulsions targeting the mind. And we're not talking about just a random bad thought. These are described as being potentially really severe, intrusive thoughts, sometimes even blasphemous or suicidal in nature. So to be super clear, the main features here are these compulsive thoughts aimed at the imagination and the mind. What's also really interesting is that the source connects this to the compulsive nature of a habit, which kind of helps explain why this can be such a persistent and, frankly, a deeply personal struggle for someone. Now we're at our third and final type of extraordinary attack, oppression. So if infestation is about places and obsession is about the mind, then oppression, well, it's about a person's entire life, their well-being, their circumstances, the whole shebang. And you'll notice this definition is really, really broad, and that's on purpose. Oppression is described as an attack that causes negative fallout across a ton of different areas in someone's life. It's not just one thing, it's a widespread assault on their well-being. And just look at the scope here. According to the source, this can affect a person's physical health, their emotional and psychological state, their spiritual life, their relationships, even their job. It's described as this huge, multifaceted attack on a person's ability to just live and thrive. Okay, so we've walked through all three of these extraordinary attacks. Now let's put them all side by side so we can really nail down the differences and make it all crystal clear. This table right here, this is the core takeaway. You can see the progression so clearly. Infestation targets a place or an object, and it shows up as paranormal type events. Obsession targets the mind and imagination, and it manifests as those compulsive, intrusive thoughts. And then finally, oppression targets a person's entire life and well-being, showing up as all sorts of external hardships. See that? Each one has a very different target and a very different way of showing itself. So we've mapped out this whole theological framework of attack, from a place to the mind, all the way to a person's entire life. And look, understanding these distinctions, that's a huge first step. But it naturally leads to the next, crucial question, doesn't it? If these are the forms of attack, what are the forms of defense? And that question really highlights just how deep this topic goes. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Thanks for joining us.